Ancient Norse secret that modern dating coaches won't tell you. This goddess discovered the real reason 73% of relationships fail in the first year, and it has nothing to do with compatibility or communication. What she learned about authentic attraction challenges everything modern dating culture teaches. Stay with us to the end and discover how Freyja's three-pillar system creates magnetic attraction that lasts. Welcome back to Myth Motivation, where ancient wisdom solves modern relationship struggles. Today, we're exploring a story that reveals why some people effortlessly attract genuine love, while others chase endless superficial connections, despite trying every dating strategy and following advice from coaches who promise transformation, but deliver tactics that leave you more confused than when you started. By the end, you'll understand the difference between surface attraction and magnetic presence that creates lasting bonds. Picture this: the golden halls of Asgard stretching toward crystalline skies, where divine light streams through windows carved from amber older than human memory. The air shimmers with residual magic, carrying the scent of winter roses and something indefinably sacred. In the heart of this celestial realm lived Freyja, the Norse goddess whose very presence could make flowers bloom in winter, whose laughter could heal broken hearts, and whose beauty was spoken of in whispered reverence across all 9 realms. But here's what modern dating apps will never teach you about authentic attraction. Freyja possessed something infinitely more powerful than surface beauty. She had discovered the secret integration of 3 forces that created irresistible magnetic presence. A combination so potent that gods and mortals alike found themselves drawn to her wisdom as much as her radiance, seeking her counsel not because they wanted to possess her, but because being in her presence made them want to become their highest selves. The morning that would change everything began when Freyja awakened to find her most precious possession missing. Her falcon feather cloak, woven from the essence of freedom itself, had vanished during the night. This wasn't just any magical artifact. This cloak represented her complete freedom, her power to move through life without limitation, her ability to see situations from every perspective imaginable, to rise above earthly concerns, and maintain the detached wisdom that came from never being truly vulnerable. Standing in her chambers, surrounded by all the luxury that divine status could provide, Freyja felt something she had never experienced in all her centuries of existence. Vulnerability. Raw, unfiltered vulnerability that shook her to her core and challenged everything she thought she knew about herself. For the first time, she couldn't simply fly away from discomfort or transform herself to avoid difficult truths. She was grounded, forced to confront what attraction really meant when stripped of supernatural abilities and divine shortcuts. The other gods watched with curious interest as she began her search for the missing cloak. Some offered sympathy that felt hollow, others provided advice that rang with superiority. But Freyja quickly realized that their suggestions all focused on external solutions. Find a replacement cloak, they said. Use different magic. Manipulate the situation. But deep in her divine wisdom, she understood that this loss was actually an opportunity to discover something far more profound than anything she had ever possessed before. As days passed, something remarkable began happening that contradicted everything Freyja thought she knew about power and human connection. Without her cloak's abilities, without the option to simply escape when things became challenging, she found herself connecting with others in ways she never had before. Conversations went deeper, traveling beyond polite divine pleasantries into authentic sharing and mutual discovery. Relationships felt more real, more grounded in truth, rather than the dazzling display of supernatural abilities that had always surrounded her like a protective barrier. People began seeking her counsel not because of her magical abilities, but because of something indefinable radiating from within her essence. Something warm and genuine and utterly magnetic that drew them like flowers turning toward the sun. They found themselves opening their hearts in her presence, sharing their deepest fears and highest aspirations, trusting her with their precious vulnerabilities, because they sensed that she understood struggle in a way she never had before. This is where Freyja discovered the first pillar of lasting attraction. Inner beauty cultivation wasn't just about physical appearance or even the radiant glow that came with divine status. It was about the light that emanates from genuine self-knowledge, from the courage to look honestly at every aspect of yourself, including your shadows and fears, and then choosing to love and accept that complete picture rather than trying to hide the parts that felt uncomfortable. She realized that her divine radiance had always been beautiful, but it had also been somewhat cold and untouchable, like admiring a perfect statue rather than connecting with a living person who had experienced joy and sorrow, triumph and loss. While others obsessed over surface improvements and endless self-optimization, Freyja understood that true magnetism begins with radical self-acceptance, with the revolutionary act of deciding that you are already worthy of love exactly as you are. But she didn't stop there, because authentic attraction requires more than just inner beauty. Through her interactions during this vulnerable period, when she was forced to rely on emotional intelligence rather than supernatural abilities, Freyja uncovered the second pillar: strategic wisdom application. This wasn't about manipulation or playing games, but about developing the emotional intelligence to truly understand what creates genuine connection between souls. She observed how real intimacy developed, not through grand gestures or impressive displays of power, but through countless small moments of genuine attention, empathetic listening, and the wisdom to know when to speak and when to hold space for another's experience. She learned to read the subtle energies in relationships, to understand people's unspoken needs and respond with wisdom rather than reactive emotion, to navigate the complex dance of human connection with grace and intentionality. This strategic wisdom wasn't cold or calculating, but warm and responsive, like learning to dance with a partner rather than trying to lead them through predetermined steps. It was about developing the ability to meet people where they actually were rather than where she thought they should be, to communicate in ways that truly reached them rather than simply expressing herself and hoping they would understand. The third pillar emerged through what initially felt like her greatest moment of weakness, but ultimately became her most profound source of strength. Freyja realized that her moment of deepest impact came not when she was invulnerable and untouchable, radiating divine perfection that kept others at respectful distance, but when she chose to be authentically open about her struggles, her fears, her journey of discovery during this challenging time. This authentic vulnerability timing wasn't about emotional dumping or inappropriate oversharing or appearing weak. Instead, it was about the strategic courage to be genuinely yourself at exactly the right moments, creating sacred space for real intimacy to develop between two people who were brave enough to let their guards down and trust each other with their authentic truth. When Freyja finally recovered her cloak weeks later, finding it carefully folded in her chambers as if it had never been missing, she realized the entire experience had been a divine test, a cosmic gift disguised as loss. She possessed something infinitely more valuable than magical flight or supernatural transformation abilities. She had discovered how to create lasting attraction through the conscious integration of inner radiance, emotional intelligence, and strategic authenticity. This combination of inner beauty cultivation, strategic wisdom application, and authentic vulnerability timing created something no magical cloak could ever offer: the ability to form connections based on truth rather than illusion. Relationships that grew stronger over time, rather than fading when initial excitement wore off. Attraction that was sustainable, because it was rooted in genuine compatibility and mutual respect. While dating coaches charge thousands for attraction secrets, Freyja discovered these truths 1,000 years ago. Modern dating culture has convinced us that attraction is about playing games, creating artificial scarcity, or perfecting our online personas. But these approaches create connections built on false foundations that crumble under the weight of real intimacy. Freyja's first pillar, inner beauty cultivation, directly counters our culture's obsession with surface appearance and external validation. When you focus on developing genuine self-worth that comes from within rather than from others' approval, When you cultivate authentic confidence that isn't dependent on comparing yourself to others, you naturally attract people who value substance over superficiality, depth over drama, authenticity over artificial perfection. The second pillar, strategic wisdom application, transforms how you navigate relationship dynamics. Instead of manipulative tactics or emotional games, you develop emotional intelligence to understand what creates genuine connection. You learn to communicate in ways that foster understanding rather than defensiveness, to navigate conflicts as opportunities for deeper intimacy, to build trust through consistent, authentic action. The third pillar, authentic vulnerability timing, might be the most revolutionary. In a world of curated social media personas where everyone pretends to have everything figured out, the courage to be genuinely human becomes incredibly magnetic. This isn't random oversharing, but wisdom to recognize when genuine openness deepens connection and when healthy boundaries serve everyone's highest good. Together, these three pillars create what Freyja understood as integrated attraction. You become someone who draws genuine love, not through manipulation or performance, but through the irresistible combination of self-knowledge, wisdom, and courageous authenticity. This approach attracts the right people who appreciate your authentic self. Freyja's story reminds us that our greatest challenges often reveal our most powerful gifts. When life strips away external sources of confidence, we discover unshakable strength that comes from knowing ourselves completely. Her three-pillar approach creates meaningful connections in every area of life. Take a moment to consider which of Freyja's three pillars resonates most with your current relationship journey. Are you focusing on developing inner radiance, strategic wisdom, or authentic vulnerability? Remember, true transformation happens when these elements work together, creating magnetic presence that draws love naturally into your life. If this ancient wisdom sparked something in you, subscribe for more stories that reveal how mythological insights can transform your relationships. This is Myth Motivation, where ancient wisdom meets contemporary transformation.